guys, it's Raul again, and today I'm bringing you my August wrap-up. So in the month of August, I completed 11 things, which for me is astounding. I enjoyed everything that I read, which is probably why I ended up reading so many books, because I loved everything that I read. I had an awesome reading month. So yes, originally I was going to end up splitting these between novels and graphic novels, but toward the end of the month my reading slowed down because we got a new puppy, and she's 6 months old and very energetic and draining the energy out of everyone in the house. So yes, my reading definitely slowed down toward the end of the month, so I wasn't able to complete some of the other things that I had planned. So yes, I'm just going to end up just putting everything into one video instead of splitting it. So yes, let's just go ahead and get started. Now, the first book that I completed in the month of August was Forgive Me, Leonard Peacock by Matthew Quick, and this is a contemporary book about a boy named Leonard Peacock who one day decides to kill one of his friends and then kill himself, and kind of everything that ensues on his last day before he kind of decides to complete this act. I absolutely loved this book. I ended up giving it a 5 out of 5 stars. This was amazing. I read this one, or listened to this one on audiobook originally, and I'm super glad that I have a physical copy because now I can reread it. But I loved Leonard Peacock as a character, and I felt personally that I was able to connect with him and his situation and his thought process and kind of everything that was going on. Yes, this was an absolutely amazing book. And the next book I read was The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn. This is her short story that came out, I believe it was last year, and I also picked this one up on audiobook, and I kind of just wanted something quick to listen to and was kind of in the mood for mystery thrillers. Had never really read anything by Gillian Flynn, so just decided to pick this one up, and I loved it. I loved Gillian Flynn's writing. I loved kind of those weird, unlikable characters and the weird kind of situations where they're in and everything. I really, really enjoyed it, and I've heard that her other books kind of have the same kind of character, the same kind of like dark feeling to it. I don't really want to go into much of the synopsis because it is a short story, so I feel like if I were to really dive into the synopsis, it's just going to like end up telling you half of the story. But it is about this woman who has a weird job and then one day kind of gets involved with this family and their son and some weird things that happen. That's as much as I'm going to tell you. Yes, I loved Gillian Flynn. Definitely want to read more by her. And yeah, I absolutely love this one. I think I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Then after that, in August, there was the readathon for Get Graphic that was being hosted by Kristin from Whatskapening and Kayla from Bookadoodles, which I will link both of their pages down below for you guys. But it was just basically a readathon to read graphic novels and graphic things. And there were a couple different challenges and everything. I didn't really complete a lot of challenges. I just kind of read graphic novels, and I ended up completing 3 graphic novels during the week of the readathon. The first one that I completed was Witches Volume 1. I've had this graphic novel for a while now and keep putting it on TBRs for readathons and things, but never get to it, and I finally got to it. I really enjoyed this one. It is about a girl and her father who kind of move, or parents, both parents who kind of move away because there are these weird things that are happening to this girl, and then they find out that when they moved, this spirit or entity, whatever it is that was following her from the first town, has followed her into the new town, and kind of things that are going on with these witches and weird things in the woods and these creatures kind of taking people. The art style was definitely unique. It wasn't my favorite because I know a lot of people say the same thing. It's got a lot of like splotches of color kind of going throughout everywhere, and there were a couple of instances in here that I just didn't really understand what was going on with the artwork because it was a little hard to see with all the splotches of paint kind of thrown around everywhere. It was definitely unique and I enjoyed it, but it wasn't my favorite art style for a graphic novel. But I really enjoyed the story. I enjoyed kind of where it went. The plot twist at the end wasn't the greatest, but I still really enjoyed it. Ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. Then after that, I read Saga Volume 1. This is a graphic novel that a lot of people on BookTube have read and enjoyed and loved, and now I see what all the hype is about because I absolutely loved this graphic novel series, or this graphic novel volume. This is about a man and a woman who come from different planets and come together and have a baby, and now they're being chased because they're not supposed to have gotten together. These two races are supposed to be at war against each other and everything, so now everyone's kind of like after them and their baby and everything. So it was amazing. The art style I loved. It was clean, it was simple, it was easy to understand. It was definitely an adult graphic novel. It definitely had a lot of content in there that made me as myself a little bit uncomfortable, but I really enjoyed it for the story and the characters and everything that was going on. It was fun, it was action-packed, and I absolutely, absolutely loved this graphic novel series. Then after that, for the readathon, I picked up Faith Volume 1, and this is about an overweight superhero and kind of her adventures and things that are going on, and I absolutely loved this book. I loved kind of the message and everything that was going on, and the empowerment that was going on. Not once in this graphic novel did they refer to her weight as being something negative. It was just, she was overweight, and she was a superhero, and that was it. And I absolutely loved that about it. She never put herself down for her weight. She was never being picked on for her weight. She was never being looked at wrong for her weight. And I loved that about this one. She was a superhero, and she just happened to be overweight. That was it. There was nothing more into it. There was nothing that kind of pertained to the story with her being overweight, and I loved it. She was just having fun. She was saving the world. She was on a mission. She was saving people. It was an absolutely great graphic novel. I loved the art style. It was super clean, super fun. The story was the only thing that I didn't absolutely love or didn't blow me away, but it was still really, really enjoyable. But I loved the fact that her weight never came into play the entire time in this first volume, and I loved that about it, because I feel like with a graphic novel like this, or having an overweight main character, at some point the weight thing is going to play into it. And I'll talk about that later on with another book that I read, where kind of the weight was playing into it, and the character was kind of putting themselves down because of their weight and everything. And not once did she feel insecure, did she feel like she was lesser than anybody else because of her weight, and I loved that. I definitely highly, highly recommend this graphic novel. Now, after the readathon, I finished A Beautiful Chaos by Cami Garcia and Margaret Stoll. I read the first half of this last month in physical form, and then had the graphic novel kind of readathon, and then somebody reads it and everything, so I ended up putting this one down. And then finished the rest of it on audio. So I finished the last half on audiobook. I'm really, really loving these audiobooks for this series. I think they're kind of keeping my interest a lot more than if I were to read it in physical form. And I'm still enjoying this one. And I'm still really enjoying the series very much. I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars or so. I loved it. I loved kind of everything that was going on in this one. I don't really want to get too much into the synopsis, because that's just going to ruin the rest of the series for you guys that still want to read this one. But it still follows our two main characters, Ethan and Lena, and kind of their journey and the chaos that has ensued with them, and Lena being a caster, and kind of Ethan kind of trying to figure out what he really is and what he plays within this world of the casters and everything. And I really, really, really loved this series. I don't know, a lot of people out there don't like it, but I've just been enjoying it so much, and I'm really excited to get to the last book in this series. And after that, I read The Girl of Fire and Thorns by Ray Carson, and this is the book that I was referring to earlier about the kind of weight thing, where our main character is overweight, and she has a godstone in her belly button and kind of is destined to save the world. She doesn't really know how this whole godstone and everything plays. She doesn't really know what part she takes within this kind of war that's ensuing in her country and everything. And she gets very early on, I think it's the first chapter, starts off with her kind of getting married off to somebody and getting sent away from her kind of hometown or home village. And yeah, like everything that kind of starts after that. I really, really enjoyed this series for what it was, with the settings and the characters. I really loved that it was kind of Latin American influenced with the world and the characters, because I felt like, me being Hispanic, this was something that I felt I can see myself in. Not very often, or I think this is probably the first time in a fantasy series that I felt like I could connect more with the characters, because I felt that they were my race. They were from my culture and from my own background, and I don't really get that in fantasy. I've never really felt connected with characters in that way, where I can say that, hey, these characters look and act or were raised like me. And I felt that with these characters and with this story and in this world, and I absolutely loved the diversity within this series. And yeah, I loved these characters. Like I said, the one main gripe that I had about it was that our main character, Elisa, was kind of putting herself down because of her weight, and thinking herself as being less of a person because of her weight, because she was overweight, and didn't really kind of know why she was chosen to be this. So she was putting herself down a lot. I still ended up giving this a 5 out of 5 stars, because that was a very minimal part of the story. There were so many other things that were happening within this story that I absolutely loved, and the characters and the romance. For the first time ever, I felt I was rooting on the love story within this book and within the rest of the series also. I loved the love story within this one, and I usually don't say that. I usually really enjoy kind of like the action and the plot and the things that are going on, but I loved the romance in this one. I felt like it was just very, very well done, very well written, and I love this one. And toward the end of this first book, I think I found myself kind of rooting more for the love interest and everything. I loved this book. 5 out of 5 stars. And the next book I read for the month was The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins, and this one I listened to on audiobook, and I really enjoyed it. Like I said, at the beginning of the month, I was kind of in the mood to kind of read or listen to adult thrillers after I read The Grown Up by Gillian and Flynn, so I ended up picking up The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins because I've been really curious about this book. I've heard mixed things about it, but I still really wanted to check it out, especially before the movie came out. So I picked this one up on audiobook because my library had it. And yes, I really, really enjoyed this one. It's about a woman who kind of rides the train every day and kind of imagines or makes up her own kind of story in her head about this couple that she sees at this house every day at one of the stops. And she kind of imagines their life and imagines them and kind of how they live and the things that they do and everything. And one day she sees something strange from the train. And yes, kind of everything starts off from there, and she's kind of in kind of like this journey to find out what it was that happened with this couple and everything. So yes, I really enjoyed this one. I enjoyed the pacing. I enjoyed kind of the multiple perspectives and everything that was going on within this story. I really enjoyed the writing. I enjoyed that it was tense, and it was definitely what I was in the mood to read at the time. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. The only thing that I really had to complain about was I just felt the ending wasn't as wow as I wanted it to be. I didn't guess it, which was great, because going into this book, I had my theories, and I was like, oh, well, if this book ends the way I think it's going to end, I'm just not really going to enjoy it. So I really liked the fact that I didn't guess the ending, but I wasn't really wowed by the ending. Now after that, because I had read Saga Volume 1, I had a coworker who was also into the graphic novel, so he let me borrow Saga Volume 2 and 3, and I read those two back to back and really, really enjoyed those. Also, this one continued on with the story of kind of our two main characters kind of getting chased and everything going on. We were introduced to a lot of new characters and kind of little plot points and everything in there, which I really, really enjoyed. The second book was definitely much more action-packed than Volume 3. Volume 3 kind of focused more on the character development and their backstories and everything, and it kind of slowed things down a little bit, which I really did appreciate, because after having the first two volumes where it's just like constant running and action, I really enjoyed that Volume 3 was a little bit calmer and gave us a little bit more backstory and gave us a little bit kind of more heart, and kind of made the ending of Volume 3 that much more kind of heartwarming and heart-wrenching and that kind of thing. And I have Volume 4 and 5 that also my coworker let me borrow, so I will definitely be getting to those very, very soon. And yes, I've been loving this one. I see what all the hype is about. I gave 5 out of 5 stars to all of these volumes. I've just been absolutely, absolutely loving this series so far. Then after that, I picked up The Crown of Embers by Ray Carson, the second book in the Girl of Fire and Thorn series, and I buddy read this one with Kayla from Kayla Rayne, which I will link her page down below. I read the first one on my own because she had already read it on her own, but then we kind of planned to read the last two books in this trilogy together, so we read The Crown of Embers by Ray Carson, and I really enjoyed this one, not as much as the first one, because of the fact, again, that I felt our main character was kind of putting herself down a lot because of her weight, and we kind of see her within this book kind of regress a little bit, but still really enjoyable. I still really enjoyed the plot and kind of the new love interest that's going on within this second book and everything, and I really enjoyed it. The world continues to be a world that I absolutely love, and the characters continue to be characters that I really, really enjoy, and the writing is just absolutely beautiful as always. Won't get into too much detail about this one because obviously it will ruin kind of the things that happened toward the end of the first book, but I really enjoyed this one, and me and Kayla kind of had the same feelings about kind of the main characters, but still really enjoying the plot and everything going on. I wasn't too into the new love interest because there are certain things that happen within the first book, and there's kind of a new love interest being introduced within the second book, and I wasn't really rooting for them toward the beginning, but absolutely loved them toward the end, and now they are my absolute favorite OTP. It's just, they're just they're my thing. So if it hadn't been for the fact that we had gotten a dog, I probably would have ended up finishing more, because I also started reading The Bitter Kingdom by Ray Carson, and I am 50 pages from the end of this one. So I definitely would have finished it if I would have had more time. But yes, really enjoying this one so far, the conclusion to the Girl of Fire and Thorn series, and I will hopefully be finishing this one today as soon as I upload all of these videos. So yes, really enjoying this series so far, really enjoying buddy reading this with Kayla and everything. So yeah, more of my thoughts on this one and the conclusion of the series for my wrap up in August, or my September, you know what I mean, September wrap up at the end of September. And another book that I started in the month of August and will hopefully be able to finish within the next day or two is The Dinner by Herman Koch. I'm a little more than halfway through this one, and it is about these two couples that are going out to dinner to discuss kind of a situation between their kids. And they're all family. The two main characters are brothers, and they're going out with their wives, and the two kids are obviously cousins and everything. And a situation that kind of ensues within these two kids, and the dinner that they have planned to sit down and talk is to kind of discuss the situation that's going on. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this one so far, really enjoying kind of the backstory and the characters. Like I said, I've been in the mood for adult thrillers and mysteries and that kind of thing, so I ended up picking this one up because I forgot I even had this one on my shelf. So yes, more of my thoughts on this one in my September wrap-up, because I've really been enjoying this one so far, and I've definitely been intrigued since the beginning of this book, kind of what's going to happen with these kids and with their stories. It's definitely kind of, it's very disturbing, kind of once you start to realize what it is that's going on, what it is that these kids did. Yeah, it's just, so I'm very interested in finding out how this is going to end and how things are going to play out. So yeah, guys, that is it for everything that I read in the month of August. Comment down below and let me know if you guys have read any of these and want to discuss it and talk about it and everything. Let me know what your guys' favorite books were in the month of August. Thank you guys all for watching, and I will see you all next time.